As a military analyst and advisor for Universal Defense and Security Solutions in the UK. Sean, thank you for joining us this hour. The wording of this, reading between the lines, sounds like it is directed at the United States because the United States is the biggest and main supplier of weapons and military hardware to Israel.
Yes, good evening. I mean, one of the things that we have to set this into context, as you say, the US by far and away the biggest supplier of weapons. It provides something like $3.8 billion worth annually, whether it's jets, whether it's weapons, predominantly for this conflict, air-delivered weapons, precision strike. The US have supplied over 21,000 bombs, precision guided munitions since the 7th of October. And that includes the bombs themselves, then the guidance kits, which is called JDAM, the Joint Direct Attack Munitions Kit, that you bolt on the front and the back of the bomb so that it can fly to its target, guided by laser or global positioning satellite, and of course the fusing. So of course, there is a conversation about how many weapons should or could be provided. Of course, those levels of weapons are more than sufficient to deal with the conflict in Gaza. The challenge, of course, is that Israel is also being attacked from the north, from Lebanon. And if they had to go and do an operation up there, they would need another significant influx of weapons. So it is interesting that the discussion around Europe, but frankly, it is the US this is primarily focused on.
So is it fair to conclude then that the US is in breach of international law?
Not at all. You'll be well aware there's a lot of politics going on at the moment. Every nation in the world is entitled to defend itself. It's obliged to have weapons to enable it to defend itself, and Israel is no exception. Israel has declared a war on Hamas. But what this ruling does do, it just demonstrates the massively growing international concern that Israel's response after the 7th of October attacks, heinous as they were, we're now several months in, we're seeing, I think it's over 29,000 Palestinians have now been killed, over 69,000 have been injured. We're very close to 100,000 Palestinian casualties, 2/3 of those apparently are children. And of course, they virtually leveled Gaza with a massive humanitarian crisis developing there. And we're on the cusp now of Israel starting phase 3 of their offensive, going into Rafah. And with 1.5 million Palestinian refugees there, the tent city that's sprawling across Rafah, it's very difficult to see from a military perspective how you differentiate, the civilians, the hostages, the Hamas fighters. As one of the UN agencies described it, it'll be a bloodbath if Israel goes in there. And I think that's just a growing concern of the international community as to what this next phase might bring if Israel continues with their attack.
Sean Bell, military analyst and advisor for Universal Defense and Security Solutions. Thank you for joining us this hour.